All right. All right. My name is Chris Berry, certified law attorney, certified financial planner with Castle Wealth Group. And we do these weekly wisdom webinars every week where we just answer legal, financial, and tax plan questions that our clients or individuals have for us. And so if you do have something that's floating around in your head or any questions, feel free to put it in the Q&A and I'll go ahead and address that. And I always start with the positive focus, just something positive that happened over the last week or so. My positive focus is that we went up north for my daughter's, she had a soccer tournament in Traverse City. So we spent the weekend up north in Traverse City. They lost both games and they tied one. So it wasn't great from a soccer perspective, but the weather was good and we had a great time. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And like I said, if you do have a legal, financial, or tax question, feel free to put it in the Q&A. Otherwise, I didn't have anything submitted this week, but I've had a couple of clients who had family members passed away. And so we've been kind of going over estate administration. So I figured I'd just share kind of briefly the steps of estate administration. So what needs to happen when someone passes away? And we'll just talk about it kind of big picture. But what I'm going to do is share my screen real quick. And really, there's a couple things that have to happen. So the first thing is we need to get a death certificate. So the way that you get a death certificate, it's through the typically the funeral home. They'll get work with the county to get you the death certificates. So nothing really can be done until we have the death certificates. And then from there, if we have a trust, we have to do two things. We have to get a certificate of trust, now showing that the next person in line is the acting trustee. This is the person that can interact with the different financial institutions. And then a lot of times we need to get a tax ID number for the trust. So when you open up a new bank account or a checking account, typically you'll use like your social security number. But when we're administrating an estate and a trust, we need to get a tax ID number, like a social security number for the trust. And so we get a tax ID number through the IRS. And then once we have those two documents, the certificate of trust, the tax ID plus a certificate of trust, then we can follow up with the different financial accounts. So working with the life insurance, the 401k, the IRA, the checking savings, with that certificate of trust, now those different financial institutions will work with that successor trustee. And then really it's just creating an inventory, a list of all the different accounts. And then once we have access to those different accounts, then we got to pay off the final expenses, pay the bills, handle any funeral expenses, make sure whoever paid for the funeral is reimbursed if it was paid out of pocket, and then handle that last tax return. It's something some people forget about, is that if someone passes away in, let's say, May or June, they do have half a year of potential taxes that have to be paid. So make sure that final tax return is taken care of. And then once all of that is handled, we're comfortable, there's nothing else hanging out there, then the final step is looking at distributing the assets, following the terms of the trust. And really, estate administration comes down to getting the assets out of the deceased individual's names. And there's 4 ways that assets transfer at the end of the day. So first would be joint ownership. So if you're joint on a checking account, I sat down with a family yesterday, mom passed away, the 2 daughters were joint on her checking account. So they had immediate access to it. So joint ownership, that's one way to transfer assets. The other is looking at the beneficiary designations. So is it the trust listed as a beneficiary? If there's a trust, is it an individual listed as a beneficiary? It goes to whoever's listed as a beneficiary. Third would be through a trust. And there's different types of trusts, of course, but most of our clients have a trust at the end of the day. So you'd follow the terms of the trust. But if an asset doesn't pass through one of those first 3 ways, then it ends up going into probate. And that's what we always want to try to avoid, because it's a court process, it's time consuming, and it's costly. Now, a lot of people think a will avoids probate, but all a will does is gives instructions to the probate court. So if you're looking at avoiding probate, you don't want to rely just upon a will. Instead, you're going to want to rely on one of the other ways to transfer assets, typically joint ownership, beneficiary designation, or trust. And a lot of our clients have trust at the end of the day. So hopefully that was helpful. Just wanted to cover, just because it's come up a couple of times this week, just the general steps in terms of what happens when someone passes away. We need to get access to the death certificate. That's the first step. Then we get the certificate of trust, the tax ID, get an inventory of all the different financial accounts, handle any final expenses, and then distribute assets wherever they're supposed to go. Typically, timing of this, usually it takes at least a month to get the process started, and then it's just going to be working with different financial institutions. If there's real estate, then it could take a little longer because you have to get the house all prepared and stuff. But typically, it's wrapped up within the first couple months. So hopefully that's helpful. Let's see what else came in. Oh, thank you, Don. All right. So just had a comment come in, and I'll talk about this a little bit. So a client of ours, they set up one of our high yield savings accounts. So right now with interest rates where they're at, one of the things that we have is a high yield savings account through, it's called Flourish, and it's FDIC protected. Right now, I think the interest rate's about 4.5%. So for our clients that have cash sitting on hand, they're worried about putting the money into the market. We have a high yield savings account that's offering about 4.5% rate of return. Now it's not like locked in forever, but the nice thing about it is it's completely liquid. You can get access to it at any time. And like I said, right now it's offering about 4.5% return, which is pretty darn good. Especially given where everything is. Let me share my screen real quick. And if that's something that you're interested in. Yeah, so right now it's 4.55%. And it's really easy to set up. All you have to do is just send us an email, ask for an invitation, because you do have to be attached to it, an advisor. Send us a email saying that you want access to it. There's no fees. It's completely liquid. And again, it's 4.55% right now. So it's pretty good opportunity if you have a lot of cash just sitting on hands, earning nothing in a checking savings. And you just link your existing checking or savings account to the account, and then you can go ahead and start saving. So I appreciate that feedback. Client just mentioned it's awesome. Thank you. Very easy to set up. So all right, that's really all I had this week. Not a lot. So if you do have any other questions, feel free to email it over or reply to the email that you received for the invitation for the webinar today. And we'll go ahead and either address it individually or we'll address it on the next webinar. So with that, thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.